for it. There you go. That wasn't too bad. Okay, Maaser Sheni Dalet Gimel.
Why did I move that? Dalet Gimel. Okay. If the owner said for a seller and another said for a seller, the owner has precedence because he adds a fifth. If the owner says for a seller and another says for a seller and an isser, that of a seller and an isser has precedence since it adds to the principal. If one redeems his own Maaser Sheni, he must give a fifth to it, whether it is his or is given to him as a present. One may act cunningly regarding Maaser Sheni. How so? A man says to his son or daughter who are of age, or to his Hebrew manservant or maidservant, here is this money, and redeem for yourself this Maaser Sheni. But he may not say so to his son or daughter who are minors, and to his Canaanite manservant or maidservant, because their hand is as his hand. If one is standing on the threshing floor but had not money at his disposal, he may say to his fellow, this produce is given to you as a present. And then he says, this is redeemed with the money that is in his house. Good?
Okay.
All right.
Money that is in his house, right? Okay. Right. Mishnah Vav. Mashach mimenu Maaser Basela. Now, let's before we get into the meat and potatoes of the Mishnah, let's just give some background to what's the case talking about over here. We're talking about people redeeming their Maaser Sheni by using their friends. Now, there's another way of redeeming. The classic normal way of redeeming Maaser Sheni is you have the produce and you have your money, and you say the value, this is redeemed onto this. Okay, and you can do that with your friend's money too. One thing you're not allowed to do is to sell Maaser Sheni. Okay, because it's a disrespectful way to do it. But what you can do is sell it by way of redemption. Okay, now how does that work? Let's say I've got Maaser Sheni produce and you've got money, and you want to buy my produce. I said, look, it's Maaser Sheni. He said, fine, I'll redeem it and give you the money. So what you can do is you can say, I'm selling you, I'm buying this from you, and the money over here is the redemption. So you can take my produce and I can keep the Maaser and the money, which now takes on the Kiddush of Maaser Sheni.
So the money he gives the owner of the produce becomes Maaser Sheni. It changes the status.
That's right. So effectively what he's done, if you break it down into slow motion, he's redeeming the money he's redeeming the Maaser Sheni onto his money, so you don't need the chomesh because it's his money for his friend's produce. Okay. And at the same instant, there's a kinyan that now they've changed. So now they're basically doing a trade between them, and the Maaser Sheni stays in the seller's hands. He's just changing it from fruit into money, and this whole transaction is okay. What you're not allowed to do is say, give me money and I'll sell you Maaser Sheni produce, and the fruit keeps the Maaser Sheni. Now you paid me, I've taken money for something that's Maaser Sheni. I can't do that. But what I can do is take my money that becomes Maaser Sheni.
Right. So as the owner of the produce, you can't say, all right, listen, give me 20 shekels and I'll give you my produce.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. The buyer has to say, I'm going to
you have to have both the buyer and the seller have to understand that there's a redemption happening in the process of the transaction, and that the Maaser Sheni stays in the hands of the buyer. It just transfers from the fruits to the money.
And I imagine he has to verbally say, I'm giving you this money as Maaser Sheni for your produce, and I will redeem this produce.
Right. Right. That's right. He's got to make the declaration. Now, okay, this is all well and good. That's very simple, and we don't even need a Mishnah for that. But what we do need to understand is where what happens is somewhere in the middle of the transaction, the price of the produce changes. So we hear on the news that he's got a let's say we're talking about a bundle of wheat. He picks up the bundle of wheat, and before he has a chance to hand over the money, So he's already made the kinyan on the wheat, but
Right.
before he gets to hand over the money, the news comes over the radio that the main storehouse of wheat has burned down, and now wheat has doubled in price. Okay, so now why is this complicated? Let's say, so let's see the case inside the Mishnah now. Mashach mimenu Maaser b'selah. So the buyer takes the produce for a seller. The agreed price was a seller. He's done it. The kinyan is done, and now all that he has to do is he has to pay over a seller.
Right.
Okay. But he didn't manage to do the redemption until before the price went up to two sellers. Okay. So now what does the buyer have to do? The buyer only has to give him one seller because that's the price at which he did the Mashiach. The Mashiach was done at the price of one seller, but the redemption hasn't happened yet. Okay. So now he's got produce that's worth two sellers, and he got a good bargain. He did it because he got it for one seller. But Maaser Sheni Shelo, he's got the responsibility to redeem the remaining Maaser Sheni. Okay. Which means that nonetheless he still has to redeem the Paris. He has to take another seller of his own, because the Maaser didn't leave its status of Maaser Sheni and become Chulin until he's paid its value. He's got to actually hand over the money for it to be redeemed. Okay, so if we take like a slow motion frame of what's the order of play, because normally it'll just be take the produce, hand over the money, and it's all done.
Right.
He takes the produce, and the first thing that happens is he's made a kinyan, and now he has a debt to the seller. How much does he have to pay? A seller.
Right.
Seller to the seller.
Right.
Okay, so he has to pay the seller to the seller. As he pays over the seller to the seller, that seller becomes Maaser Sheni, but that's only one seller. The produce is now worth two, so he has to redeem it now with another coin, with another seller from his own pocket. So now he's got Maaser Sheni money as well.
Does he redeem it at the balance?
So he has to redeem the balance because only half of the redemption value has been paid out. He's got to take out another coin, and in fact probably a chomesh on top of that.
I was thinking because something
A seller and a dinar.
If he took, I don't know, he said, give me 12 apples, okay? And he took 6. And then all of a sudden that price changed. Now the second 6, he's got to pay that extra amount. Plus
exactly, because that one he didn't make a kinyan on.
Right.
Okay, so you do the math on that according to the case of how much he's made the kinyan on. So the kinyan affects the debt he owes to the seller, and the payment represents the redemption.
Right.
So if the price changed in between, then the transaction is done, but he still has to do the redemption at the full price.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Maaser Sheni Shelo. Mashach mimenu Maaser b'shtayim. Now, what happens if it's the reverse case? If the price was two seller, the government suddenly announced subsidies on wheat, and the prices dropped through the floor. No sen lo seller michulin. So now he owes the seller 2 sellers, because that's when he made the Mashiach. He still has the debt to pay. The seller sell Maaser Sheni Shelo. So he can take. So what he can do, he's got 2 coins in his pocket. One is just a regular chulin seller, which he gives to the seller, and that becomes Maaser Sheni in the seller's hands
at the higher price.
Well, it's one seller. So that effectively redeems the Maaser Sheni of the produce, and then he can take his own Maaser Sheni coin and hand which he had from somewhere else. He has another coin that's labeled Maaser Sheni, and said, you know what, you can save me a trip to Yerushalayim. Here's the other seller that I owe you. And he can do that now because normally you wouldn't be allowed to use Maaser Sheni funds to pay off a debt.
Right.
But in this particular case, where he was initially going to be using it to redeem the Maaser Sheni. It's because it's such a corner case over here where something happened right in the middle of a transaction. So apparently he is allowed to use the second his Maaser Sheni to pay for it.
I thought, I'm confused on that. I thought you said that this case now is that he paid the higher rate, and then in the middle of the transaction, it went down.
That's right.
Price went down. So
right. So again, let's do this in slow frame. They agree on the price. They shake hands. To seller. He takes the wheat in his arms, picks it up, reaches into his pocket, and the announcement comes over the radio that the price has dropped by half. So now this wheat that he's picked up is actually only worth one seller.
Right.
But he owes the guy 2 seller. So he takes 1 coin and says, okay, here's the redemption for the seller's worth of wheat that I'm holding over here. Says that's Maaser Sheni, and for the rest I owe you. Here's another seller which itself was Maaser Sheni before. I had this from somewhere else. I'm giving this to you because you're going up to Yerushalayim anyway, and right. And you can take this as part of your.
It seems like he's paying him more than the price went down. It seems like he's paying him more.
Well, yes, but because again he made the transaction, and that wheat is now his, and all that's created is a debt.
Right.
He now just has a debt.
But he can't use the money for a debt that he's giving. So, but
in this particular case, he's allowed to do it because in any case the whole transaction was involving Maaser Sheni, and so he is actually allowed under these very narrow circumstances to use his Maaser Sheni coin to pay off the debt.
And he's letting this man use the Maaser Sheni money to redeem.
Yeah.
Redeeming it for him. He's redeeming it.
So one coin was chulin that becomes Maaser Sheni, and one coin was always Maaser Sheni, and he pays off the rest of his debt with that.
Okay.
So that's Maaser Sheni. Im haya am haaretz. However, if the seller was an am haaretz, no say no mitamai, then he can't give him actual Maaser Sheni. He can only give him if it was he can only give him Maaser Sheni of demai. Because we don't put a michshol in front of amay haaretz. Because they're not careful with Tumah and Tara.
Okay.
Mishna Zayin, hapode Maaser Sheni v'lo kara shem. Now, a person does a redemption of Maaser Sheni, but he didn't actually express it explicitly. He didn't say ze pidyon Maaser Sheni. Okay, he just took out money and he separated out the money and put it aside. But he never actually expressed it. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Dayo. Rabbi Yossi says that's fine. His action is obvious what he was intending to do. There was no need for a verbal declaration. I mean, it's lechatchila he should, but if he didn't make a verbal declaration, it's not ma'akev. Rabbi Yehuda Omer tzarich leparesh. Says no. It says Rabbi Yehuda, if you don't make the declaration, you didn't redeem it. Okay. So now that's the fundamental machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, and the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. And since we're also we're speaking about this particular machlokes about whether or not a person has to make an explicit declaration about something where the context makes his intention obvious, then we're also going to move onto a similar topic where we're talking about dinay ishus with a woman.
Right.
Okay. Rabbi Yehuda haya medaber im haisha. He's talking with a woman. Al iska gita v'kiddusheha. Either that he's talking about divorcing her, or he's talking about marrying her. Okay. V'nasan la gita or kiddusheha v'lo perash, and he gives her a get. So let's say he's talking with his wife and saying, this marriage just really isn't working out, and I think we should probably get divorced. And he pulls out a scroll and just hands it to her wordlessly. Now, normally, lechatchila, he's supposed to say, "Harei zo getech." This is your get. Or, alternatively, he's talking with a woman saying, "I love you. I think we'll be wonderful together, and I really want to get married to you. And do you want to get married to me?" And she says, "Yes, yes, yes." And he pulls out a ring and sticks it on her finger, but he doesn't say "Harei mekudeshesli." Okay, so either of these two cases, the halacha is going to come out split along the same lines. Nasan lagita v'kiddushe v'lo perash. Rabbi Yossi Omer Dayo says context makes it obvious. He didn't have to say it. The context makes it obvious what he's doing. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer tzarich lefaresh, and once again Rabbi Yehuda says it's not good enough that that there's a context. He has to explicitly tell us what he's doing. So it's exactly the same machlokes, and they're consistent in their opinions. That Rabbi Yossi says context makes it obvious. You don't, if he didn't say it, it's okay. And Rabbi Yehuda says if he didn't say it, he didn't do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Mishna ches hamaniach isar v'achal alav chetzio. So a person has an isar, which is let's just get the coins, the coin denominations right. So an isar is 1/24 of a dinar. It's also 1/2 of a pundion, which is also equal to 8 prutas. Okay, just in terms of conversion factors. So but the important thing over here is that an isar is half of a pundion. But the other thing that we have to bear in mind is that it's not like a fixed currency system where like you have in the world today, where if you have 2 nickels make a dime. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Or is it the other way? Okay, right. A nickel is 5 cents and a dime is 10 cents. Right.
Right.
You always have 2 nickels make a dime. Okay, but in ancient coin systems, remember, coins can wear out and they lose their value, or they can actually fluctuate. So normally, the normal status of things is that 2 SRs make a pundion. Okay, and this SR of his is he's busy. It's Maaser Sheni, and he's in Yerushalayim. And he's busy buying produce for it and being mechalel partially on his coin. So he bought half an isar's worth, so something worth 4 prutas he purchased in Yerushalayim. Or not even in Yerushalayim, maybe he just purchased outside Yerushalayim and he was going to bring it into Yerushalayim. Okay, and he goes to another place with his isar, half of which has already been redeemed. So it's half kulin and half Maaser Sheni. Varehu yotze bepundion. No, sorry, I've got it in the wrong direction. It's a chulin. It started out as a chulin coin, and he's redeeming his produce onto it. So he first in one place he redeemed Maaser Sheni onto half of it. So it comes to the same thing, but I've got it. I had it in the wrong direction. So he's redeemed Maaser Sheni onto half of it. So this coin is half chulin, half Maaser Sheni. And now he goes to another place. Varehu yotze bepundion. And now this coin is suddenly worth twice as much as it was. Okay. And now ochel alav od isar. Now he's allowed to redeem onto it another isar's worth of produce because his coin suddenly became worth more. So again, it changes. So it's still 50% chulin, 50% Maaser Sheni. So with the remaining 50% of it, he can redeem Maaser Sheni up to that value. Okay, are you with us? Are you with the math over here?
It's a little bit confusing, this one.
Okay, so let's just say it outside. Is that whatever's on the coin, if the value of a coin changes, then it changes proportionately. So if it started out as 50% chulin, 50% Maaser Sheni, it stays 50-50, except now the value of it is more, and he can redeem more onto the chulin portion.
On the chulin portion, okay.
Yeah, because the chulin portion is still 50% of it, and now it's just valued at more, so therefore he has the ability to redeem more onto that coin.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so now if you thought that, okay, so then comes the reverse case. Hamaniach pundion. If he has a pundion coin, so the pundion was it's 50-50 chulin and Maaser Sheni, and now devalued. Then he can only redeem onto it a half of the isar because the value because the coin is devalued, and you've got a smaller chulin portion available for redeeming. That part of the Mishnah is okay up to now.
Okay.
Okay, now if you thought that was confusing, here comes the rest of the Mishnah, which, as you will notice, has pages and pages of explanation on it because nobody actually understands what the Mishnah is saying. If I'll read to you, Kahati's first comment on this is that this Mishnah is extremely difficult, and many Perushim have been written on it, but all of the Perushim are very stretched. And the lashon of the Mishnah just doesn't work out well according to any of them. This is Kati's opinion on the Mishnah. And when I see an explanation like that, I say, okay, I'm going to throw up my hands on this one and just sort of pay lip service to reading the explanation, and I'm not even going to try to explain it, because if the Mefarshim who came before me couldn't explain it satisfactorily, I'm probably not either. Isar shel Maaser Sheni, if he puts down an Isar that is Maaser Sheni, Ochel alav echad asar be'isar ve'echad mimea be'isar. So he can consume on it 11 of an Isar and 1/100th of an Isar. Okay, don't know what it means. Beis Shammai omrim hakol asara, the whole thing is 10. Beis Hillel omrim bevadai, when it comes to Maaser vadai, then it's 11, and when it's demai, then the value is 10. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't even attempt to explain it, so we're just going to skip that one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So then let's go back now to Beis Hay.
If chulin money and Maaser Sheni are scattered, whatever he picked up belongs to Maaser Sheni until it is completed, and the remainder is chulin. What does that mean, though? He picks up, whatever he picks up, it belongs to Maaser Sheni until it is completed. Does that mean he picked up all the Maaser Sheni coins?
Yeah. So if he's picking up one by one, then every coin that he picks up is considered Maaser Sheni until he's reached the original sum of Maaser Sheni that he had.
Okay. That's what they left out over there. It says just it was completed, not until the original amount. Okay, and the remainder is chulin. If he gathered them and took from them by the handful according to the proportion,
then it's pro rata. Then you divide the coins pro rata according to how much was chulin and how much was Maaser Sheni.
Whatever is picked up belongs to Maaser Sheni. Whatever he has mixed according to the proportion. Okay. If a seller of Maaser Sheni and one chulin became mixed up, he must bring coins worth a seller and say, a seller of Maaser, whatever it may be, is redeemed by these coins. Select the better one of them and redeem them with it, since they said silver may be redeemed with copper in case of necessity, but not to leave it so as to redeem them together with silver. But Beis Shammai says one may not convert his sellers into gold dinars, but Beis Shammai permits it. Rabbi Akiva says,
Beis Hillel permits it.
I'm sorry?
You said Beis Shammai permits it, but that's Beis Hillel.
Hillel, sorry. Rabbi Akiva said, I converted to Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua's money into gold dinars. Okay.
Trumas Ches Gimel.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Trumas.
Right.
Ches Gimel.
Ches Gimel, right. Okay. This is divided in two parts, that's why. If one was eating a cluster of grapes and he entered from the garden into the courtyard, Rabbi Eliezer says he may finish it, but Rabbi Yeshua says he may not finish it. If it became dark on the eve of Shabbos, Rabbi Eliezer says he may finish it, but Rabbi Yeshua says he may not finish it.
This is talking about, in both cases, when Rabbi Eliezer says he may finish it, means he says, whoops, I walked into the courtyard, he can walk back out again and carry on eating it. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it's too late. Now it needs Maaser. And the same thing goes for Shabbos, is that he was eating in the field, then he left it in the field and went back in for Shabbos, and Motzei Shabbos he wants to come out and carry on. Rabbi Yeshua says you can't.
If Truma wine was found uncovered, it must be poured away, and needless to say, if it is chulin. 3 liquids are forbidden if they remain uncovered: water, wine, and milk. But all other liquids are permitted as long as they have how long must they have remained so to become forbidden? The time it takes for a reptile to come from a nearby place and drink. The quantity of uncovered water sufficient for the venom to be offset. But Yossi says in vessels any quantity, and on the ground 40 saws. Okay.
Gimel.
Maaser was Gimel, right? No, Demai.
Demai Gimel.
Why was this here? I don't. Gimel. If one finds fruit on the road and takes it in order to eat it, and then decides to put it away, he may not put it away before tithing it. Well, if he took it originally to prevent it's getting lost, he's exempt. Whatever one may not sell in the state of Demai, one may not sell to a friend in the state of Demai. One may not send. Rabbi Yossi allows when it is certain, but he must inform him. If one takes wheat to a Kuthan miller and to a miller who is an Am Aretz, the condition is presumed unchanged in regard to Maaser and to Shemitah. To a non-Jewish miller, it is Demai. If one deposits his fruits with a Kuthian or an Am Aretz, the condition is presumed unchanged in regard to tithes and the sabbatical year with a non-Jew as his fruit. Rabbi Shimon says, Shimon says Demai. And if one gives to a hostess, he tithes what he gives her and what he receives from her because she is suspected of exchanging it. Rabbi Yossi said, we are not responsible for deceivers, he tithes only what he receives from her. Okay. It's so funny going to someone's house and tithing my produce, what she gives me.
Yeah.
Don't you trust me? Okay. All right. Vav Zion. There are 24 extremities on the body that do not become tummy because of mikya. The tips of the fingers and the toes, the tips of the ears, the tips of the nose, the tip of the body, and the woman's nipples. Rabbi Yehuda says a man's nipples as well. Rabbi Eliezer says also warts and hanging skin that do not become tummy because of mikya.
Yeah, when they're talking about Rosh Evarim, they're saying that if you have a baheris, let's say around the edge. Now, normally, if you have a baheris like with a ring around on a person's skin, and healthy skin in the middle, that is considered that's a mukhlat. That's tamei for sure because it's got a michya in the middle of the baheris. But if it's on the rosh evarim, so let's say we're talking about the rosh of the fingers. So if a person's got a stripe of baheris all the way around the base of their finger, but the top of the finger is healthy, you don't say that the tip of the finger represents a michya in the middle of the baheris. You just say that the baheris is encircling the finger and there's no michya inside it. So you can't call the top of it, like if you looked at it from the top, it would look like it's a michya because there it's okay. And so all of these Rosh Evarim, they're sort of peaks on a person, points where if the baheris surrounds those points, that's not considered a siman tumah.
Okay, these are the parts of the body that do not become tummy because of baharis. Inside the eye, inside the ear, inside the nose, or inside the mouth, in folds of the skin, and in folds of the skin on the neck. Under the breast, the armpit, the sole of the foot, the nail, the head, and the beard. A raw boil, burn, or wood, literally a boil or burn or a wood that is rebellious. The above mentioned parts of the body do not become tummy because of negayim, nor do they become combined with Nagayim, nor does the nega spread onto them, nor do they become tummy because of nikya, nor do they prevent him from having the status of turning completely white. If the head or beard became bald, if the boil, the burn, or wound developed a scab, they become tummy because of Nagayim, but they are not combined with Nagayim. A nega cannot spread onto them, nor do they become tummy because of mikya, and they present the status of someone who turns completely white. The head and the beard before they have grown hair and hanging skin on the head and on the beard are judged like skin of the body. The Zion of Baharos that are Tahor, Baharos that a person had before the Torah was given, that were a Gentile who converted, or a newborn child, or a fold of skin that became revealed on the head or on the beard or on a raw boil, burn, or wound. If the head or the beard of if the head or the beard then became bald, or the boil, the burn, and the wound became partially healed, they're tahor. A nega appeared on the head and the beard before they grew hair. Then they grew hair and subsequently became bald, or a boil, burn, or wound that did not yet scab, then formed a scab. And the boil, burn, or wound healed it. If Eliezer ben Yaakov renders these cases tummy, since they began and ended as a tummy, but the sages both render them tahor.
Right.
Their appearance.
Avos, snap, avos.
That's it.
Daled Aleph.
Ben Zoma says, who is wise? He who learns from every person, as it is said, from all my teachers I grew wise. For your testimonies on my conversation.
Nope, come backwards.
I skipped the page.
Yeah.
No. Daled Aleph, right?
Yeah. Ezehu Gibor.
I don't think that's here.
So we said Ezehu Chacham Halomed Mikol Adam. Okay,
Base.
as it's from all the people I taught, I've learned. Okay, then Ezehu Gibor is the next one.
You see, Ben Zoma says, who is wise? He who learns from every person, as it is said, from all my teachers I grew wise. For your testimonies on my conversation.
Oh, so your version has continues the pasuk. Okay, mine didn't have it. All right, carry on. Sorry.
Who is strong? He who subdues his personal inclination, as it is said, he who is slow to anger is better than a strong man, and a master of his passions is better than a conqueror of a city. Who is rich? Who is happy with his lot? As it is said, when you eat the labor of your hands, you are praiseworthy, and all is with you. You are praiseworthy in this world, and all is well with you in the world to come. Who is honored? He who honors others, as it is said, for those who honor me, I will honor, and those who scorn me, I will be degraded. Then Azai says, run to perform even a minor mitzvah and flee from sin. For one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah, and one sin leads to another sin. For the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and the punishment of a sin is a sin. He used to say, do not be scornful of any person, and do not disregard anything. For you have no person without his hour, and you have no thing without its place.
Right.
And
Yavamos.
Yamos. Okay.
Gimel Daled.
If a girl refuses her husband and he is permitted to marry her relatives, she is permitted to marry his relatives, and she is not disqualified for the priesthood. If he gave her a bill of divorce and he is prohibited from marrying her relatives, she is prohibited from marrying his relatives, and she is disqualified from the priesthood. If he divorced her and married her, and then she refused him and married another and was widowed and divorced, she may remarry him. If she refused him and he remarried her, then he would divorce her and married another, and she was widowed or divorced, she may not remarry him. This is the rule. In a case of divorce after refusal, she is forbidden to remarry him. In a case of refusal after divorce, she is permitted to remarry him. If a girl refuses her husband and is then married to another who divorces her, then to another whom she refuses, then to another whom divorces her, then to another whom she refuses, she is forbidden to return to anyone from whom she was divorced, but is permitted to return to anyone who is refused. And if a man divorces his wife and then remarries her, she is permitted to the Yavamin, but Eliezer forbids it. She too, if someone divorces her as an orphan and then remarries her, she is permitted to the Yavam. But Reb Eliezer forbids her, and if a child was given in marriage by her father and then was divorced, she was like an orphan during her father's lifetime. And if he remarries her, all agree that she is forbidden to the Yavam. If two brothers were married, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Terrific.
All right.
Have a great.
Thank you very much. You too.
See you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Oh, actually tonight.
Oh.
Tonight. I don't fall asleep.
All right. Yeah, we got share tonight. Hopefully, we'll have a share tonight.
Hopefully. Okay. Thank you. Well, bye.